Okay, hello everybody. Uh, Before there was Wide Flank, there was a podcast called 01Y, which is a movie podcast that the three of us made. This is Danny. You know me and Danny. I'm Teddy. But this is Aleah. She's a new addition to the family. She's our sister. Um,
She's very young.
I grew really fast.
yeah. And you're going in reverse order. And you died at like 35, so you know. And yeah, so we had a movie podcast where basically it was called 01Y, where 0 was don't watch it, 1 was watch it, and Y was the whole podcast where we talked about why you should watch it or not. And so we're going to continue that here. And yeah, so get ready. We're going to be talking about Bo Burnham's Inside, his Netflix special. And basically why I hate him. I'm just kidding.
Oh my god, I was so scared.
I guess that is what we're going to talk about. That's all we can talk about, unfortunately.
Cool. So, do you guys just want to jump in? Is there anything else we should say?
I was just going to summarize the special.
Okay.
But
yeah. So, yeah, Aleah, what's Inside about? What do we need to know going into this if we haven't seen it?
So, it's Bo Burnham's latest sort of comedy special. It's a little different from most comedy specials, even from Bo Burnham's comedy specials. And he wrote, shot, directed, and produced it alone in basically one room, and during quarantine. And it's also longer than most specials. It's like an hour and a half long. Usually they're an hour. And it's about being stuck inside. And like most of his specials, most of it is music. Most of it is songs. And then there are some like spoken bits and kind of more traditional stand-up stuff, although even less in this than there usually is in his stuff. Anything I'm forgetting?
No, I think that's good.
Okay,
Danny, had you seen anything Bo Burnham before you saw this?
I had seen... So when he was on Vine, I'd seen all of his Vine stuff and not realized who it was. Even though I was a YouTube kid, I actually had never seen really any of his stuff. Then sometime earlier this year, I ended up watching the end. I think it's the end of Make Happy, where when he was on tour, he would do the like Kanye impersonation. Mm-hmm. Not impersonation, but where he would do his like Kanye rant equivalent. And
like, I'm gonna let you finish.
No, do you know what I'm talking about, Teddy?
No, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. So, well, he went to a Kanye show where at one point Kanye just had this super auto-tuned rant about a bunch of random stuff and like the problems he's facing in his like work and in music and art and stuff. And it's like auto-tuned. There's this crazy light show, and so Bo Burnham basically turned it into his own little bit that he was closing out every show on his tour with. And it's a similar kind of thing. It's kind of like spoken word and singing and noise. And I saw that, and it was the
How
first...
did you come across that?
It was just on YouTube.
Okay.
Like it was like a recommended video. I think it was around when Inside was coming out, so the algorithm
right
was
after
pushing.
his vaccines cause autism video that he watched.
Yeah, exactly.
Right after Danny's.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
God, you keep... I thought you meant Bo Burnham.
No.
No.
I was like, Danny's getting YouTube recommendations and he's watching them. I'm kind of scared.
Yeah. But, you know, it closes out where the end of that bit, he kind of is bouncing back and forth between this like joke about what is like kind of a joke about Chipotle, and then also being like he like can't handle what's happening on stage. And I just found, I don't know, I found it like very profound while I was watching it. And then when Inside came out, I was really excited to see, because it seemed like it was just going to be that for an hour and a half, which it basically was, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, and then since then, I've consumed a ton of Bo Burnham content.
Mm-hmm. Teddy, what about you?
Yeah, so I hated him, and I still don't know if I'm on board, but like I really found him like viscerally unappealing. Like, you know, we're almost the same age, and it seemed like he was like 10 years younger than me in his humor style and like the jokes that he thought was funny. And yeah, it was just like, I'm just shocked that anybody likes this person. Like, I just watched before we, like, maybe 3 hours before we started recording, I started watching his like comedy special from 2013 when he was like 23, I think. That about adds up. And it was so bad. It was like so, first of all, it was offensive. Like, it was just like actually offensive, like, and problematic. In reference to one of his songs on Inside, but it was also just like so stupid. It was just unbelievably stupid. And we were staying with Madeline's when I watched Inside. We were staying with Madeline's friends, who are like so nice, and every time we go visit Madeline's family, we stay with them, and they were like, we should watch Inside, you'll love it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to watch a Bo Burnham movie. I was like, I really don't want to. I was like, I'm not feeling like it. And Madam was like, okay, let's watch it. And they're like, it's so good. Like, you haven't seen it. We're going home. We're watching it right now. And like, I was like, oh, maybe we could play a game or do something else. They're like, no, we're watching it. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to like be a fucking asshole. These people who are, every time we go, let us stay with them, are super nice. And it was like basically the only way I would ever watch it. Like, there's no other way I would have watched it. Like, even if you both were like, it's amazing, I would have been like, I don't care. I'd rather die than watch this movie. And so I watched it, and I ended up liking some of it. Aleah, you had you known anything about him before you watched this?
Yeah, a friend of mine in college, Carly, was a big Bo Burnham fan, and had like, I think he did a show at Northwestern or something, and she had seen him there. And so I had like watched some of his stuff, but I never really, I was like, oh, that's funny. And I think I had seen Art is Dead. Do you guys know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I watched Make Happy. I never watched like his early stuff. But I had seen 8th Grade, and I loved 8th Grade. And I went to a showing where there was a Q&A with Bo Burnham of 8th Grade at Jacob Burns. And
in retrospect, I am so jealous. At the time, I just like, I didn't really care, and now I can't believe that you got to do that.
I had the same reaction that I had to Win Butler from Arcade Fire when he came on stage the 2 times I've seen them live. Like, just like full body flush, like bright red. Like if you when you watch like the old videos of
Beatles
girls
concerts.
at Beatles concerts, like you look at it and you're like, that's really weird. Like, what's going on with these people psychologically? Like, that's fully the reaction that I have, which is, for all the listeners who don't know me, like, not really my style. I also don't like a lot of things. But yeah, I don't know. Just, I think it's mostly tall people who are talented. Yeah, just really. They get me.
Hot and bothered.
Yeah. I think I was with Mom and Frostine. It might have been Mom and Ellis. And they both were like, he's cute. And I was like, I know. And then later he was talking about like his age group and stuff. And they were like, wait, he's so young. He's your age. And I was like, please stop talking to me right now.
Oh man.
Okay, so
yeah,
comedy. Is I was preparing for this episode, and I realized I don't know anything about comedy. Like, I don't even understand like laughter. There's like something like I feel like this is probably my most underdeveloped like intellectual understanding of the like academic understanding of this medium. I just don't really get it. Like, I find things funny, I find things not funny, but I don't really, it's so hard for me to articulate so many things about this. Did you guys feel like it was hard preparing for this episode at all? Like,
well, it is strange that when I watched it the first time, I was like in a perpetual state of emotional distress. Like I just spent 80 minutes feeling tortured while I was watching it, but very captivated. And I found myself, I only laughed maybe twice when I watched it the first time, but I found myself kind of coming away with it feeling like it was funny. But almost like almost like in a satire way, not in a laugh out loud or that was a clever joke, that was good stand up kind of way, you know.
I think part of why I've always liked Bo Burnham more is because more than other comedy, like I also don't know a lot about comedy, and I don't like a lot of comedy. It's like the format of it just the medium of it doesn't do a lot for me. And I like that his stuff is theatrical and musical. It's like very performative and it's always commenting on itself. And so there's like this feedback loop that's always going on that's kind of interesting to pay attention to. Yeah, but I think if we were talking about one of his other specials, I would have a lot more trouble with it than this one. Like this, because this one is basically a musical to me.
There's something like comedy. So I think there's either, for me, there's probably all kinds, but there's like physical comedy. But for me, like a comedian generally is like, there's either like wisdom or rawness. Like I feel like Louis C.K. is kind of like this raw type of comedy where it's like embarrassing. You put it all out there. You like shock people with your like idiosyncrasies, like a kind of Woody Allen style, right? And then you have like the wise comedian like George Carlin or who's the atheist guy that
Sam Harris.
Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, just like, you know, more like philosopher types. And I think the reason I hated Bo Burnham so much and his like earlier stuff was like, you're like not that smart, and you're definitely not wise, and like that I'm spending any time subjecting myself to your like opinions of the world is like, so like I just like everyone I know is smarter than you and like is cleverer than you, all this stuff. And then like watching this, it was like, oh, he's like entering into this raw comedian style where it's like, I'm gonna put myself all out there and just, I don't know, just bear it all for you. And like, I still didn't think it was funny, but I definitely felt better about interacting with it in that way. It was like, he was just very honest, and it's like, and earnest in a lot of it.
Is any of it funny to you?
Yes.
Like, what's funny? Bezos 1 is very funny to me. Also because it's so surprising. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I've like heard Bo Burnham do commentary on before, and a lot of the themes in this are sort of recurring ones from his past work. And I think part of what was very funny about it was like, what is this song about Jeffrey Bezos doing in the middle of this comedy special musical? I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't find that funny.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know you don't like sexting.
Oh my god, I hate that song. It makes me like, there's just the movie was, for so much of it, just pure cringe for me. It was like, literally I was like, I can't, I like feel sick to my stomach watching this. But so much of the humor he does, and that a lot of comedians do now, is like explaining what's happening in the moment, or like the joke they just made, like, see what I did there, or like, do you get it? Like the gag is like dwelling on the joke, and I find it just like so uninteresting. And I just feel like a lot of his comedy, even in this, is like that. Like you're saying, like self-referential. I just find it like there's nothing. Often it's like I got it the first time, or I even got it before you even said it, because it's like an obvious thing to point out. I don't know. Maybe we could talk specifics or something. Because
Yeah.
I'm kind of
I think I'm sorry you're so smart, It's hard.
So do you want to talk about 8th grade? Because
yeah. You liked it.
yeah, I thought 8th grade was absolutely incredible. I thought it was
Yeah.
so good. But it's not, I mean, it is funny, but there's like not a lot of like gags, right? It is him just telling a story about like a really sad moment in this person's life, this young girl's life. And like I'm starting to cry almost just thinking about it. But he just is really empathetic in that, obviously, like to make this movie. And there's a sensitivity to him that like his earlier stuff just doesn't have at all. It's like he's like clearly it's like, almost like defensive, right? And I'm not surprised this person started having panic attacks when they're performing on stage. Like to me it's like he almost like realized he was like so full of shit that he had to do something else, like make something super heartfelt like 8th grade. And then that's why when he comes back to comedy specials, you can only do this. What did you guys think of 8th grade?
Well, just quickly that's interesting because it seems like the panic attacks were at their worst when he did Make Happy. And that was his like series of specials I was talking about before. Or not a series of specials, his last comedy tour he did before he stopped. And that to me felt like a very distinct shift from his previous work, or in hindsight it looks like it, and it really is like a much more vulnerable Bo Burnham, it seems like. So it's interesting that as his work was getting kind of satisfying some of the issues or solving some of the issues you had with it was when he really was struggling most, it seems like.
Yeah, I watched Make Happy last night, and I think it is like a transitional piece. It's like between his old stuff and Inside and 8th grade, which I think have they're different qualities from each other, but also from the rest of his work. He had written 8th grade before Make Happy. And like after making Make Happy was like, okay, now basically like got enough publicity from that to be able to get funding to actually make the movie. So I think that transition was probably all happening around the same time in terms of like turning to a different kind of work. And also making work that wasn't about, one of the weird things about comedy is how self-focused it is. And I think this is one of the things that makes comedy very interesting, is I feel like it's done by a lot of people who hate themselves, who are usually also people who love themselves or are obsessed with themselves. And so that I find often very hard to watch, which I think is why I hate a lot of comedy. Yeah.
Can I say something about that?
Veto.
Keep talking, Aleah.
Wait, what do you think about 8th grade?
No, let him respond to you first.
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't want anyone to know. No, you'll just have to wait until it comes out. I hate pretty much every major comedian that is like in the major field of comedy right now. Like all my friends from school, from high school, whatever, whenever they recommend a special to me, I finished maybe one Netflix special. I think it is so devoid of meaning. It's so unclever. It's just like it's just made up stories the whole time. And
like Dane Cook or something.
Yeah, and like Chris D'Elia and Theo Vaughn and Bill Burr. I mean, I think all these people have funny moments. Like I like Tom Segura a lot, who's a newer comedian. And so, yeah, I don't know. I hate comedy because it is so impersonal and not vulnerable in a lot of ways. And maybe that's why someone like Louis C.K. resonated a lot, and why someone like Bill Burr, I like his podcasts and stuff, I think are a lot funnier because it is much more real. You listen to a real person. But I liked 8th grade. It was interesting. I was talking to one of my friends about it today and was saying that was like the best year ever. 8th grade was like for me. So it was, some of it didn't really resonate. Like, I don't know, my second half of middle school was so good. And so some of it felt like were people really this nervous or awkward in middle school? Like, come on, which obviously most people are. And I certainly had those phases just at other points in my life, but yeah, I actually found that some of the moments that are supposed to be funny, I didn't really find that funny, and they felt out of place. There's that masturbation scene during the health lecture.
Yeah, that was such a Bo Burnham moment.
I don't think that's supposed to be funny.
It is. It's definitely supposed to be funny.
I mean, okay. When I say I don't think, I mean I've heard him talk about it in interviews and say it's not funny.
Oh,
he's like, it's kind of funny for a second, and then it's really not funny at all.
Well, that's good, because I didn't think it was funny.
I didn't either.
I think that's just the
now
the commodity
I don't know how to
that
feel
is
about it.
yeah. Well, that is what someone else would use as like a comic moment, and I hate that. So the fact that it's not supposed to be funny makes me feel better about its inclusion.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I had experiences like that in middle school. Like, stuff like that definitely happened.
Oh.
Like there was some situation where some boy like wiped his cum on a girl.
What's that movie?
Call Me by Your Name?
No.
There's a lot of cum.
Squid and the Whale. I was gonna say I thought it was bad that he was wiping it on books, but I guess
Yeah.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, that's what I felt like that was about. It's just about this, like,
gross, weird time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to really set the scene.
Yeah. Were you going through puberty in 8th grade, Danny?
No.
Okay.
I was well out of it.
You were done.
Yeah, I was done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I guess I mean, I think I more or less was too, but we're getting really
personal.
far afield here.
Far from inside. But I mean, I think Teddy's not alone in that 8th grade was something that Bo Burnham put out that kind of validated him as a creator and performer, or not performer in this case, but as an artist and creator that is not just an internet phenom, Like I was talking to Molly's younger sister Annabelle, who's like a film student, and I got her to watch Inside, but before it, I was like, "Do you know who Bo Burnham is?" She's like, "I don't really know." And then I said, "Did you see 8th grade?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, like I thought 8th grade was incredible." And I was like, "Yeah." And he also just made this. And she's like, "Okay, I'll watch it." So, and I've had kind of similar conversations with people who seem to really find 8th grade valuable, that gave him some capital to put this more personal thing out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of works in reverse in that it's like, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't speculate on what's like more true to Bo Burnham or not. But I think that part of why I love Bo Burnham a lot is because the first major thing of his I interacted with was 8th grade.
And that's kind of where I started all this was like, unfortunately, I started from like the worst part. And so this is something I think he hates social media, right? He thinks it's really bad. 8th grade is like a really good example of this. I mean, it's not about that, but Inside actually is a lot about it. Is like it's a, I don't know, polemic against social media, right? And this is somebody whose existence has essentially been documented, not quite on social media, but on, I guess, on the internet and then social media for a long time. And it's, his childhood, it's his like worst jokes. It's like him trying to be famous and to get people to like him. Right. And I'm sure that fucked with him a lot. Right. And now everybody is like that. Right. Every single person is putting all the stuff out there. People's nudes are getting leaked. Right. All kinds of like horrible, like exposing things that are now going to exist on the internet forever about a whole generation of people. And he's like, sort of like being famous is bad. It's like everybody is famous now, right? And everybody's content is out there, and this is a bad thing, right?
Well, I'm sure it's
from someone who's been fucked by it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's a strange thing to be. It seems like he and a lot of people his age are, well, maybe I don't know, are like coming out of that mode of thinking, or want to get out of that mode of thinking of like performative use of the internet and social media. And as he's coming out of it, it feels like the entire world is going all in on it, right? Like this entire generation has taken it to, has turned it up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not their fault, but
what do you do with that feeling when you're actually a performer? You know what I mean? Like when that's what you love doing, and that's one of the things you're best at in the world, like.
Yeah, I guess like you
make this, I guess,
or you make 8th grade, right? I think like that's really what it is. It's like, you have a lot of actors and stuff who've like transitioned to directors and do more behind the scenes stuff.
Do you know that everything you just said is stuff that he says all the time?
No.
Yeah,
I'm a genius.
Well, it's funny.
You're smarter than Bo Burnham.
I was gonna say when you were talking about hating Bo Burnham, in the immortal words of Jewel, do you hate him because he's pieces of you? But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like watching interviews with him, I think the person he reminds me of the most is you.
Yeah.
Of all the people I know. And I think it has to do with this. I know. Not the bad version of him. It's like you plus a little musical theater, so it's kind of like me too. But I think it's this combination of irony and earnestness, and this like, I feel like the experience of his art and also interviews with him is like he's like so like vulnerable and tender in this and in 8th grade, or the story of 8th grade, and in a lot of his interviews, but also like can't quite commit to being earnest, and is like always outside and always questioning and always observing himself and judging himself and everything he's interacting with.
And you see that at the end of Inside, where he leaves the room and is still on stage, and then like, even to top it all off, then pans out to him still watching it, right? He's still watching what he's doing.
Right. He's better. Like I feel like the message of Inside is like, he's better, he's gotten out, but he's right. You're never really out, right? You're always stuck, or you're always fighting that battle. And I thought that was like a good message, right? And like, clearly he's still doing it, right? That's what this is,
Yeah. The I watched Make Happy last night, and have you guys seen the ending of it?
No, I don't know anything about this.
So at the end, he's in that same room where that all of Inside takes place in, and at the end he like walks off stage, and then it magically transforms into his home in Los Angeles, even though he's just been on stage in New York. And he opens the door and walks out, and there's like a lawn and a house, and his girlfriend is standing there with one of their dogs, and he like goes over and like greets them, and then they go into the house. And so Inside is him coming back into the room. So it's like, yeah,
that's awesome.
And
genius.
Yeah.
Do we care that this isn't real? Like, that he's not really in this house, stuck in there, that he has a girlfriend?
No. I mean, I read this review, and then a review by Richard Brody in the New Yorker, who also did not like 8th grade very much. And he was like, the title is something like The Possibilities of the Cinematic Selfie. And he talks about how like this isn't really Inside, because where did he get all this equipment from? He must have gone out and bought it, or it was delivered to him. And he's like, and his reported girlfriend like must have been around, which was such a really shady way to refer to someone's partner. They've also been together for like 6 years. It's not like, anyway, he really had a big issue with that, like that this isn't real, that it's like this contrived idea of being stuck inside in this one place. But it's not supposed to be a self-portrait. It's supposed to be a comedy special centered around this idea, right? Like, to me, that's totally fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I read what I thought was a really interesting Slate piece. Because after I watched it for the first time, I was freaking out. I loved it so much. And it's not even that I loved it, just it had been such an important moment. Like, me watching that, I just felt like I'd been hiding all this emotion for a year, and then it just like was ripped out of me as I was watching, and I was trying to find criticism of it because I wanted to know
like
what
negative.
I wanted to find people saying bad things about it to try to understand. Just try, because I was like, this obviously can't be the case, right? And I found a lot of stuff that I thought was dumb, but I did find this really interesting piece that
everything that was negative was dumb.
The first not dumb thing I found and then stopped looking for afterwards is a Slate piece that is a kind of dealing with this question of, does it matter that this is not actually what was happening to Bo Burnham at the time? And one of the things that the author does talk about is that a lot of people's reactions seem to be that they thought that it was real. That, like, there are a lot of people who overestimated how much of Robert Burnham is in this special.
Robert, his true name.
Yeah, well, just draw like a delineation here between the character in the special and him. And that was, for some reason, a problem, but I think nothing is real, right?
I think you have to scratch the surface about this much to realize that it's not real. Like, people are always going to be dumb. Like, it's not.
There's no bed.
There is a pull-out.
There is a pull-out bed.
Oh, okay. Is there a fridge? Yeah, like
there is a fridge. Yeah, there's a little like kitchen in there.
Okay, fine. I literally didn't even for a second think he lived there. Like, he's a super rich. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, of course, people thought it, but I don't think he's like. Oh, fuck it. He's misleading people. Even if he is, right? Like, let's just say he's misleading people. This is the Tim O'Brien thing, right? Like the things they carried author, right? To tell a true war story, you have to tell a fake war. You have to tell a fiction, right? We have an hour and a half to get a message across. You can't. This isn't real life. Doesn't work here, right? Like 8th grade is a fake story, but it's about real life. And you learn about real life through fake things. It's like why we've had fiction forever. It's not like everything we've ever consumed is documentaries and fiction's bullshit. It's like suddenly it's a comedy special, so it's like it has to be true. Like, I don't get it.
I think I would be sympathetic to that if it was like, this is my video diary of my life in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think there are ways in which the special is framed that way, but this is why I wanted to talk about the title Inside, because I obviously am obsessed with titles, and they're very thinly veiled metaphors. But like, this is also really about like the internal landscape of being Bo Burnham, right? This is about like his emotional and mental existence. And yeah, I think being one person alone in a room and that sort of like conceit, or that sort of like putting that box around the special helps facilitate that exploration. But yeah, I don't think he's pretending.
But I guess even if he is, it doesn't right, it doesn't matter. And if that's all you care about is like seeing someone's like vlog like descent into madness or misery, like I just feel like that exists on YouTube probably. Like this is art. I mean, it's not to say that that isn't useful or meaningful. This is like an art piece, right?
Yeah.
So I like don't even really want to talk about it anymore. I find it like just such a irrelevant question.
Phoebe
But
Bridgers
I
is
did
actually
want to
really
address it.
happy. I don't want to listen to any of her music anymore.
Yeah, right. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like if Elliott Smith didn't kill himself and was murdered, I'm not listening to his music anymore because it's all lies. He's not actually depressed. Aleah, why are musicals good?
Well, it's interesting that you brought up Tim O'Brien and How to Tell a True War Story, because that's why I think musicals are good. Because music tells you things in a way that just words can't. I think it can be used as a shortcut in a way that is not good. Sort of like a scary movie where like only the score is telling you what's scary. Not necessarily anything wrong with that, but like it, yeah. But I think music can be really communicates to us on a different level. And I also think one of the best things about music that one of my musical theater professors in college taught me is like when the music and the words don't match, and are like sort of pushing you in different directions emotionally. And I think there's a lot of that happening in Inside. It kind of reminded me of like the Book of Mormon in some ways, where you're using these really familiar musical conventions to take people in one direction, and the ways in which that doesn't match the lyrics or the ways in which it turns a different direction from what you're expecting is part of how you make meaning out of it. Yeah, which I just think is really exciting. I also think it's kind of like it just operates on like a different level in your body. You're like hearing it, you're feeling it. You're not like thinking about it in the same part of your brain. I don't know. Danny, check my neuroscience on that, but
Yeah, I do you have something here, Danny? Or
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think in a similar way, when I've watched it, I think I've watched it 5 times since it's come out.
wow.
Last night was my 5th time. I was up to like 1 a.m. watching it again, and I've been noticing more in the music every time I watch it. And
is it on in the background? Are you watching it on your phone?
Yeah. Well, I listen to the songs
That's
separate
right.
from watching
That's
it.
a reference to Inside. Because I was watching,
yeah.
Because I was watching it for this on my phone in the background, and he said that, and I was like,
Oh, I'm
Whoops.
fucked.
Yeah.
busted.
I took out my phone when I was watching 8th grade last night, and I thought about that part of the
Yeah.
show, and I put it away. But
I watched Make Happy while I was in the bathroom last night, and I was feeling guilty for that reason. But I feel like that's a little more,
yeah.
that doesn't require a lot of focus. I was
Right.
really focused on Make Happy.
But yeah, like last night when I was watching it, I realized that during the skits, the music that's playing are different versions or instrumentals of, well, a bunch of them are I think the content instrumental for like the first half. And then there's, I forget which one plays later, but there's, these other versions of the songs that only having seen it a few times, I noticed that. So there's something about with music, there's like certain lines that I didn't pay attention to the first time. Whereas like if I'm reading an article or listening to someone talk, those things are much more obvious and you kind of just pick up right away.
Right. There's like an overture. There's a whatever that.
Right. And this is a very common thing in musicals. Like themes will reappear in instrumental versions or in like little reprises. And then like one of the things that is most musical to me about this is the song at the end, Goodbye, where it kind of like jumps from song to song through the special. It's like a tour of where we've been, which is like a very
Right.
common thing in the finale of a musical. And I think it also allows you to do, I really love when there's like a slight change in the lyric that really changes the meaning, and he does that a bunch in this special, it within individual songs, but then also with that last song.
It really speaks to the strength of whatever you're doing, I think, when you don't use or reject or even use conflicting tropes. Like, you have a beautiful song that's sad, right? Or like, I think Midsummer is like this, right? It's a movie that's like a horror movie that's like beautiful and during the day, right? It's like, if you can still make a movie that's scary doing something like that, you've done it without any jump scares, right? You've done a really good job. You have not taken any shortcuts. And I think yeah, I definitely think that happens in this to a certain extent.
What are some of your favorite moments or numbers?
I think, yeah, Danny.
I found it reminded me a lot of so That Funny Feeling reminded me a lot of a car seat headrest song, the Ballad of Costa Concordia, which is on Teens of Denial, where at one point, Will Toledo, the singer of Car Seat Headrest, basically just has a series of like, I don't know, really well written one-liners almost, and just is kind of singing them, and it just goes back. It's just like almost like a call and response with himself. And That Funny Feeling felt the same way for me. And some of it is not profound, but there's just like some, like the whole world at your fingertips, the ocean at your door. There's just like a few moments of that, and you kind of feel them like build up and kind of washing over you, all of these like frustrating conflicts and frustrating hypocrisies, and I think the live action Lion King, Robert Iger's face is funny. So
there's something about this that is cheap but still works for me. Like, We Didn't Start the Fire, right? That like Billy Joel song. Do you know that, Danny? Yeah. And like Forrest Gump, right? Like Middlesex, the Jeffrey Eugenides book, like, are like this. They just like, oh, we're just gonna hit the best of, like, we're just gonna say something and your brain's gonna do all the work, right? Like, just because you have nostalgia for it or association with it. I don't know. To me, it just seems cheap. I think what works about that song is it's a well-written song. Like, I think he's a good songwriter, and I think that does a lot of work in this. I was actually pretty surprised by how much I liked. I mean, some of the songs are just bad, and overall, I don't think it's like a great piece of songwriting. But like, there are some good songs, and I think that's one. And I think like the reason it's affecting is because it's a good song, most of all.
Sure.
But also, I mean, something I have so many things that this makes me want to talk about, but it's a good time capsule, and that song is this whole thing is a good time capsule, and that song is that, right? It's like, this is all the things right now, and listening to this song is like, oh yeah, remember all this shit. Like, in 10 years, that song's going to be to me, it's going to be like a big deal, because it's everything that was happening right now. It's going to be like a big touchstone for us.
I think there's also something about it. That song and Problematic are the songs that I find the hardest to pin down the tone of. Because I feel like in some ways that song is, I feel like That Funny Feeling in some ways is like kind of mocking this like acoustic singer-songwriter genre while also using it. And I have really complicated feelings about that. Like, I'm not sure that's fair.
Right, he says, I can't play
get
the guitar.
away with that.
I can't play the guitar or sing. It's like, yes, you can. You're doing a very good job. And like, I don't know. It's just like,
although I think he genuinely believes that, but
I don't know. He's not playing violin, he's playing guitar. Because I think he can play guitar.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to like piano, which
Sure.
he does not make that comment about.
Okay,
right?
fair enough. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
But no, I agree. And it's like, did he say that? Like, there are many moments like that where I'm like, how many takes did you do of this? And in how many takes of it did you say that? Did you write that? Did it happen one time and then you said it all the other times because it felt like part of the song now? But Problematic is another one where I feel like I was talking to Tim, my partner, about this, and he you guys know Tim?
Hi, Tim.
And he was saying that he was like, oh, I just don't like these like self-flagellating apologies. And there's a part in Problematic where he literally like he has his arms up and has like a projection of a cross behind him. Like he is clearly mocking these sort of like literally self-flagellating, like martyring apologies that people make for their past wrongdoing. But he also very clearly actually feels guilt about work he's made in the past, things he's said in the past, ideas he's believed in the past. And again, I just don't know. I think I like it. Like I like this like weird line that he's walking. Even if I think it's kind of unfair to get away with it, it's like it's really interesting to think about.
I mean, I think one thing that makes me feel better about it is he was so young for so much of this stuff.
Yes.
And like, it's why like I wouldn't be interested like in, if someone was like cancel Bo Burnham, I'd be like, okay, he was like 20 when he, said faggot on stage, right? Like there's just not, it's like not the same. He's just not the same person today, right? And it's like, there is something that he's, again, I think it's like connected to all this stuff about like all this stuff that about him everybody knows, and it's like now he's like a fully formed adult and now has all these thoughts. Like the way how much you change from 20 to 30 is insane, right? Danny, it's gonna blow your mind. But I'm sure it doesn't happen from 30 to 40, right? And if you're a Nazi at 30, it's not like at 40 I'm gonna be like, okay, no big deal. You changed. You can make whatever kind of Netflix special you want.
Well, your brain's still developing until you're 25, so
yeah, there you go.
Exactly. No cancellations pre-25.
There's something also. There's not a lot of poetry anymore, right? I think most people experience poetry through music. But even a lot of people don't like the poetry of music. I think a lot of people do, but I don't know, just like not a medium that a lot of people interact with, I feel like, these days. And I think music's one of the only ways you do it. So I don't know, I thought this was like another interesting like way to just explore these more political concepts or like human concepts out. I don't know, it's different than music, and I guess maybe it's because it's a musical, right? I don't know, I feel like we're kind of having like a musical revival in the past decade or something. I don't know if that's completely wrong, but
Hamilton and Inside.
Certainly in mainstream
Baby Driver
culture. Yeah.
That's a one.
Yeah, well, and I think, and this is like a concept musical. This is not a story, right? This is like a series of vignettes. This is like Company, the Sondheim musical. It's like a series of vignettes around the same, or around a related set of themes.
Right, which is honestly the first musical I saw. I was like, oh, musicals can be good.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
well,
Like, and also I think I have such an interesting relationship with musicals because for so long I just like went to them because you were in them, and I was just like, these suck, And then
turns out watching 12-year-olds do musicals is not the best way to love them.
Well, also, and also like Dad would take us to like Broadway, and I'd see like shitty Andrew Lloyd Webber stuff, right? It was like, of course, you know, it's bad. I didn't know chess existed, you know. And yeah, so I don't know. So I feel like I'm coming around on some of this stuff, even if you have to drag me kicking and screaming. But
did you like the music?
So some of it I like the music and that funny feeling. And there are some other like parts I liked. I think like White Woman's Instagram is the song I wanted to talk about. About our favorite part of this, and I think actually it's kind of touches on a lot of things we've been talking about, which is it makes fun of this person. Right, it's definitely critical, and like you're in on the joke too, right? So it's like, here's this person, it's safe to make fun of them, right? It's like this, you know, probably hot white girl on Instagram that we all can laugh at and make fun of, and you're participating in these jokes, and it's funny, like this person's super lame, and then the bridge is this girl's parents are dead and you're a huge asshole for laughing at this person.
Yeah.
And like they're really fucked up, and like, don't you have better things to do with your life than like make fun of this person who's like, I don't know, working through shit and is like trying to act like they have their life's okay when clearly it's not, and there's like lots of issues, and like, I don't know, everybody has problems, even like white girls have problems, you know, and it's, but also, you know, then it cuts back to the verse and a goat cheese salad, right? It's like,
right.
It's still annoying and lame what this person is doing. I can't help it, but this is a human being who has problems, and it's this incredible, it really traps you in that in a way that nothing else quite does. It's like it really got me in more ways than one, but it burned me, and I just thought that was like a really well done thing. Like, I think comedians do that with jokes and that kind of stuff as well, but like, this is, I don't know, there was just something I thought pretty magical about that, even if it's like kind of lame and stupid, and like I kind of like thought it was, when I was watching I was like cringing, but then, you know, on a couple more listens I'm like, oh, I get what he did here, and like,
well, there's something about the camera work, or not camera work, I guess is the editing of that song also, where yeah, it's almost like the curtains pull back, right? That goes back to full frame when it starts talking about her mom being dead. I don't know if you noticed this, Teddy.
No.
So it's shot in like the Instagram
like
aspect ratio, and then it cuts out. It pans out to
Okay.
to widescreen again.
Okay. Yeah.
And then comes back in.
I see. So yeah, here's a snippet of her real life or something.
Yeah, and I
think her dad's dead too, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Where she's talking about her mom, or it's talking about her mom, and then
The
just
caption,
also the icing on the cake is that say hi to dad.
Yeah, in heaven.
And no, it's Mama, I love you. Give a hug and kiss to Dad.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And then a goat cheese salad. Yeah, it's like you're right. Yeah, as Teddy said, her dad's dead too.
right. Well, I was gonna say is I also kind of saw it as, it's like whenever, if it's someone you know, I don't know, like if you know people who are kind of like this in some aspect of their life, but you know the nuances of them, you just never think this way about them. And I love what you took away from it, Teddy, which I hadn't really thought about, of like it being a gotcha, which it totally was, but then also, then you just go back, there's another person on social media or on the internet that you don't know, and you just like default to being annoyed at them or making fun of them, even though everyone you know has this really complex life and complex issues, and then yeah, you're just right back into it.
Yeah, I think that's like the thing that is so cool about this special is it's just like there's a lot of like overlapping of things that are usually separated from each other, like the irony and earnesty, and like the like making fun of someone and having compassion for them, and like implicating your audience, but also having compassion for your audience. And it's like all happening at the same time, which is I think one of the reasons why watching it again five times is like actually a satisfying experience, which to me is like a really important marker of good art, is like, did I like something about it the first time? And then also like, can I keep finding more and more meaning and more interesting things in it? Which I definitely feel about this. I also think it's really easy I spent a lot of time listening to the songs after watching it the first time. And then I watched it a second time. And there's so much happening in the visual world of the special also. And some of it is a little obvious, like what Danny was just saying about white women's Instagram. It's like, oh, it's like a square like Instagram, and now it's wide. But with something like this,
obvious.
it's like medium obvious.
2/3 of people will notice.
Yeah, I read this review that was like about I think I told Teddy this already, but that was saying like in one scene he exhorts the audience not to kill themselves, and that scene in Inside is him sitting completely still with a projection of himself onto his white t-shirt, and the projection is saying don't kill yourself. It's like very clearly like him speaking with himself and also to us, but it's definitely not being like don't kill yourselves, audience.
Here's the suicide prevention hotline number. No.
Yeah,
which is in the credits.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh.
Oops.
That scene is actually amazing. I love that because I was actually pretty uncomfortable with his like suicide stuff. It was like pretty triggering. Which, you know, there really should be warnings at the beginning. So he said, but when he's like, I wish I could kill myself for a year.
For a year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because like the absurdity of all this, right? Like, because I know people who are super depressed, right? You know, we all everyone, we know people in our lives, right? And or have experienced this ourselves. And he says, people love you. Actually, that's not true necessarily. There could be people in the future who love you. And then, which is like so brutal. And then he says, if you kill yourself, you'll be dead. He says, you'll be dead forever, but you shouldn't be dead forever yet.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we're going to be dead for billions of trillions of years, but like you should put that off by like, you know, a millimeter of time, because there might be people in the future who love you. I don't know. It's just like, so like, he's definitely not telling you not to kill yourself. I mean, he doesn't want you to, but like also life's meaningless and pointless.
Right. Like he can't in good conscience actually tell you
yes, exactly.
not to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think my roommate and I were talking about this, like, we were both feeling really down for a couple of weeks, and we were like, I think it might be because, like, all we've been doing is watching and listening to and thinking about Inside. Like, it's really dark and depressing, in, like, a really low level way. But I think something I wanted to talk about also is that Act 1 feels much more like a normal comedy special. It's like funny, it's like written and whatever. And in Act 2, it feels like we just kind of descend into madness. It actually reminds me a lot of parts 1 and 2 of Angels in America, where like part 1 is very like neat and put together and beautiful and like it's so perfect. And then Act 2 is like, the things don't quite fit in the box and they're exploding all over, but it's kind of better for that reason. In therapy today, I was talking about feeling like things are pretty good, but it still feels like something's wrong, you know? And my therapist was like, yeah, you know, one of the interesting things about this work is I get like a big sample size of how people are feeling. And she was like, there is something right now, like a lot of people are feeling this way. She was like, I don't really know what to call it. And I was like, have you seen Inside by Bo Burnham? She was like, no. And I was like, well, he has this line, the quiet comprehending of the ending of it all. She was like, yeah, I think that might be what it is.
Wow.
That funny feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ocean at your door.
When the girl in 8th grade describes how she feels like she's always in line for a roller coaster, but never gets on the roller coaster or gets off it. She just is always in line. I like made me like want to die.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the moments that are not great are so worth it in his work for the moments that are like so sharply right in a way that I haven't heard another person articulate it or like illustrate it quite so well.
Yeah, and so I would say like if someone's like, is it funny? I'd say no. Should I watch it? I would be like, with lots of caveats, but it's like it is good and I am glad I watched it because like there are those moments throughout it that punctuate it that are just like really, really nailed really well. And I also think I'm just like so glad this exists for us like to come back and see in 10 years. I don't know if like it's something we could show our like next generation and be like, I don't know if they'll even get it, but like I don't know. I feel
think they will.
Yeah,
it's timeless. They'll all be
on Instagram. They won't have time or whatever.
Yeah,
I've only shown comes back up.
I think it came back up like an hour ago, or started to at least. I convinced Annabelle and Molly to watch it with me. So I guess I watched it 5 times in my apartment and 1 time with them, not in my apartment. And they really did not like it. Mostly because it was so depressing. And they are the kind of people who don't respond well or want to engage with depressing media. I mean, I think they do. They're willing to in books, but not for some reason not in music or movies, or comedy specials. Now can add to the list, but that was a very interesting experience. Was I watching it? It was like my 3rd time, and just having like such a almost to me, it made it feel like it was. It almost validated for me that it was good and really well done, but I was bummed that they didn't kind of come away in the same way that I did. Maybe because they were still feeling the effects of the pandemic and of like the loss of the year too acutely. But
yeah, I was talking to Josh about if he had seen this, and he was like, "No, I don't want to think about the pandemic more than I have to." He was like,
right.
I just don't want to watch it right now. I can't.
Yeah, I mean that's a good reason not to watch it. We're pretty much out of time.
We'll pick this up next week.
So I'm just noticing the time. So I think we've kind of said it now, but I think we should give our ratings. Danny?
I think I'll take Teddy's. I'll say what Teddy's probably going to say, which is it's definitely a 1 for me. I would recommend it to people with a lot of caveats. I think if you don't like musicals and you don't want to listen to music for an hour and 20 minutes, like, don't watch it.
Okay. Teddy?
But I don't know.
Yeah, Uno, for sure. But yeah, just know what you're getting into. I also just think it's one of these things. It's like I find bad media so satisfying to interact with in so many ways. Like maybe super bad media I really enjoy, like really bad movies, obviously. But things that aren't perfect or have lots of problems, like I love talking about them with you guys and my friends and investigating it. So like that there is lots of bad stuff in this, but also good stuff. Like it really, I don't know, it pushed me in a lot of directions that I feel like I haven't, because I don't watch a lot of comedy. I don't see a lot of musicals. And it's I'm just really glad I like, even if it was worse than it is, I would say watch it, because it makes you flex those muscles and think in new ways that I think a lot of people maybe don't. I certainly don't. So I'll just speak for myself.
Yeah.
Aleah?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a 1. I also recommend watching the entire press tour for 8th grade.
Yep.
Every single interview. That's what I've been doing the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to just talk about 8th grade.
Yeah, I actually think you should watch some of the press tour. I think anyone should. I think it's like a lot of the ideas that he's talking about out loud and that are made into art in Inside. And so I think they like speak to each other in a cool way. And I think what you're saying about this piece, I think kind of applies to Bo Burnham's career in general for me, is like it is not 100% stuff I'm on board with, but there's so much in it that's really interesting to me, and so much in it that I have like conflicting feelings about and I'm interested in working out, that I think it's really valuable. And also I think it's really amazing to see like a smart, multi-talented artist, like talented in different media artist from 16 to 30, and the ways that their work has changed over time. Like, I'm really grateful that I'm sorry for Bo Burnham that all his stuff from when he was 16, like till now, lives in the world, but especially at a time where I feel like we're being encouraged to like erase past versions of ourselves, I think it's really special and important to see like this one creator's work change over time. Yeah. Well,
Cool.
Cool.
All right.
cool.
Should we talk about why we gave it that score?
Yeah. So now let's talk about Inside.
So go watch 8th grade.
Yeah, go watch 8th grade.
Yeah.
Definitely
exactly.
watch 8th grade.
Yeah. No reservations about recommending 8th grade.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We have a couple old episodes, honestly, that maybe we could even release before this, so maybe this will be the second one you hear. But we have, I think it might be fun to re-release our other episodes. So maybe we'll do that.
Oh, yeah.
And we're gonna, I think next we're gonna maybe do Dune, but we're gonna do some movies and stuff like that. So stay tuned. If you don't like this and just want to hear us talk about video games, fuck you. But I am sorry, you don't have to listen to these. You can just listen to
Thanks
video
for
games.
sticking out this long, though.
Yeah, you're a real psycho. Okay. Have a good night, guys.
Okay. Bye.